Tony Parnell, CEO of the Richmond Flying Squirrels. It's February 22nd, 2022. I'm not in Richmond, I'm actually in Montgomery, Alabama, where Dr. Martin Luther King ministered at Dexter Baptist Church at the start of the Civil Rights Movement. Also, to my right is the Legacy Museum for the EJI, the Equal Justice Initiative. As well, here in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks, right down this street, about 3 blocks, took the bus where she sat down to stand up for equal rights. Just like the Richmond 34 for Virginia Union did 62 years ago today. The Richmond Flying Squirrels stand with the Richmond 34, Virginia University for equality. And we will continue to go into schools all throughout our fan-based region with our ambassador, Elizabeth Johnson Rice, and others from the Richmond 34 to tell the story to kids of all ages so that they know that 62 years ago, 34 students were arrested for the color of their skin. We love the Richmond 34, we love telling their story, and we look forward to the future as we look back 62 years ago today.
I'm Bailey Johnson, the Community Relations Manager for the Flying Squirrels, and I'm honored to be able to be on this call with all of you wonderful humans today. On this call, we have a variety of people, along with original members of the Richmond 34, faculty and staff from Virginia Union University, Virginia State University, as well as some representatives from the city of Richmond. And to help me welcome some of these amazing people, and one of the members of the Richmond 34 that we work very closely with is Flying Squirrels General Manager, Ben Rothrock.
Thanks, Bailey, and thanks to all of you. This is, obviously a great day for us as well. We certainly enjoy the relationship that we've formed over the past, I guess it's been almost close to a year and a half now, right, Miss Rice? And we've taken this, and this has been such a quick impact for us. Like we were able to meet with Miss Rice many months ago at this point, and just hearing the story of the overall event and the culmination of everything that happened. From our standpoint, this has been nothing but an amazing story, and we wanted to bring you all together again on this anniversary date and allow the opportunity to speak to the group. And at this point, I'm supposed to be introducing Miss Rice, but I think she has no problem doing that on her own. Miss Rice has become an ambassador for us and our brand, and through this project. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Rice.
I'm up there.
And Mr. Rice, Ambassador Rice. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Ben. And I'm so glad to see so many of the Richmond 34 that were able to tune in. It's the 62nd anniversary, and I'm so elated to be able to share this with you. We had our little challenges to get here, but we're here. And it's Richmond 34 Day. And so I'm gonna keep to the schedule. I'd like to see your faces if you're here, if you want to. Ford, I don't see you. I know some of the Richmond 34 want to see you. We haven't seen you for a while. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bailey, I think. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Without further ado, I'm going to actually introduce someone from the city of Richmond who is here to present a proclamation from the city of Richmond. It is Richmond City Treasurer and VCU alum, Nicole Armstead.
All right. Hello, everyone. Excited to be here to celebrate Richmond 34 on February 22nd in year 2022. I love that. Two. It's an amazing day. So this is really a great celebration. Excited to see all of your faces and the living legends that we have amongst us. So I'm honored to be here, and I will say that this day is special to me, as Richmond 34 is actually a part of my family's legacy. So while I am the city treasurer, I am honored to say that two siblings among the Richmond 34 are my aunt and uncle. And so you'll hear their names shortly, but that is Miss Elizabeth Rice and Mr. Ford T. Johnson Jr. So just a little shout out for my family. I'm very privileged to be here today. And so what I will be sharing is the proclamation from the city, from the mayor's office. And you will hear the reading of all of the Richmond 34 names within this proclamation. And here as it reads. Whereas, like many cities in the early 1960s, downtown Richmond, Virginia was racially segregated. In department stores, African Americans were allowed to buy clothes, but were not allowed to try them on or return them. The lunch counters of these department stores were either segregated or they simply did not serve African Americans at all. And whereas, inspired by the Greensboro sit-ins and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who had given several talks at Virginia Union University, VUU, students at VUU plan to hold a nonviolent sit-in at department stores in downtown Richmond. And whereas, on the morning of February 22nd, 1960, over 200 students from VUU marched to Tallheimer's department store located in the heart of downtown Richmond, Virginia. 34 walked into the department store and sat down at the whites-only lunch counter and at the Richmond Room restaurant, where they demanded to be served. The students were then asked to leave, and when they failed to do so, they were arrested, charged, and convicted of trespassing. Their convictions were eventually dismissed after being appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. And whereas the Richmond 34 sit-in at Tallheimer's department store went largely unrecognized until 2004 during a commemoration march led by one of its members. It was then followed by the citywide celebration of the 50th anniversary, which validated its important impact to the desegregation of Richmond, Virginia, and the overall civil rights movement. And whereas today, we celebrate the 62nd anniversary of the Richmond 34. Leroy M. Bray Jr., Gordon Coleman, Gloria C. Collins, Robert B. Dalton, Joseph E. Ellison, Maurice L. Ellison, Wendell T. Foster Jr., Anderson J. Franklin, Donald Vincent Good, Woodrow B. Grant, Albert Van Graves Jr., George Wendell Harris Jr., Thelma Y. Hickman, Joanna Hinton, Carolyn Ann Horn, Ricardo C. Jackson, Elizabeth Patricia Johnson, Ford Tucker Johnson Jr., Milton Johnson, Cecilia E. Jones, Clarence A. Jones, John J. McCall, Frank George Pinkston, Larry Pridgeon, Cleotis L. Pryor, Raymond B. Randolph Jr., Samuel F. Shaw, Charles Melvin Sherrod, Virginia G. Sims, Ronald B. Smith, Barbara A. Thornton, Randolph Tobias, Patricia A. Washington, and Lois B. Lois B. White. Now, therefore, I, LeVar M. Stoney, Mayor of the City of Richmond, Virginia, do hereby proclaim February 22nd, 2022 as the Richmond 34 Day in the City of Richmond and acknowledge the courageous actions of these students that helped to desegregate downtown Richmond and provided additional momentum for the implementation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Richmond this 22nd day of February 2022. Signed, LeVar M. Stoney, Mayor.
I think that deserves a hand.
Yes, I think I see lots of applause. We just can't hear it because we're all on mute.
Thank you.
Yes. And I will say just a little bit of more history. I just have to share the civil rights movement. I'm also privileged to say that my father was one of the members that helped to create the first Black majority city council here in Richmond. So I also have that other side of my legacy. My mother gave me the connection with the Richmond 34, and then my father with that Richmond City Council, and that is Chuck Richardson. So thank you so much. I'm privileged to be here today.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That is so exciting. And we are, I'm sure that this is a big day. I know Miss Rice has worked a long time to try to make this happen. So it's really exciting that this came together, and we are all honored to be a part of this day. Now to say a few words, I'd love to introduce Dr. Aaliyah Carter from Virginia Union University, where these students are from.
Got a little technical difficulties here. Good afternoon, everybody. As she mentioned, my name is Aaliyah Carter, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Virginia Union under the leadership of Dr. Hakeem Lucas, who's our President and CEO. And so it gives me pleasure just to bring you all greetings and to be a part of today, because it is truly a special day. It's an opportunity where we can celebrate not just our past, but our present and our future. And it's the future regarding these 34 students from Virginia Union who did a heroic act 62 years ago. And we're here to honor you because you really sparked a civil movement through a peaceful protest. And we can never forget you for what you have done, forget what you've done. And we can only thank you for having the courage to stand up on that day to make a difference. We all know we're going through a lot right now in this current day, and you all serve as sheroes and heroes for many of us to come. And so thank you for being the trailblazers. We really appreciate you, and we're looking forward to continuously serving our community and changing the world as we move forward so we can bring about equality and equity for all of those that are around us. Thank you.
I want to thank, Bailey, before I give the closing remarks, or maybe we have a few minutes, we can let some of the Richmond 34 chat in, but thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Beautiful words. So glad we connected, and we hope to connect with you again very shortly. I just want to let people know that my affiliation with the Richmond Flying Squirrels came about during the beginning of COVID. And of course, many of you have traveled downtown and down on Hull Street? Get my streets wrong. But at any rate, right there where the diamond is found, you used to see that big brave that would be on top. And that brave is no longer there. And in place of it, we have a beautiful signature of Richmond 34 legacy. And that was done by the Richmond Flying Squirrels. They decided to take us on as their project. And it was more than just a project. They knew of the things that had happened in Richmond, and they wanted to designate something that was Richmond's own, and that's the Richmond 34. And the mission of the Richmond Flying Squirrels and my involvement is as follows. I'm going to read the mission: to promote justice, peace, and racial equality and diversity. We will meet this mission by creating innovative and exciting educational opportunities that utilize relevant information from the past to aid students in understanding the present, with the purpose of empowering them to advocate for a better future for all. And we know that today we need this more than ever. And their goal, their mission with this statement is to eradicate racism. That's our task, a major task, especially when we don't want many people coming into the classroom and talking anything about racism. We put the clamps on, but not the Richmond 34. We are making our strides, and we've been doing it for years, going into the classrooms, telling the story of how we got arrested, etc. So fear not, we still have the fight within us, those that are able to do what they can do. and to make this a real major effort in the city of Richmond. And I do want to say Legacy Weekend. Now, we were represented at the Diamond in July, Legacy Weekend. And many of you that are on this Zoom were there with us. I know Virginia State was represented in Virginia Union, and the city of Richmond, and my family was represented. And we were speaking in front of 9,000 participants that were there at that Diamond that day. And we were presented, those of us that were there, with the Flying Squirrels jerseys. And I know those are still available. I'll ask Bailey. I don't know if we can get those again for the others that want it, but you can let us know that. But I do want you to know that this year, 2022, we are having Legacy Weekend again. The date is September 16th and 17th. Is that right, Bailey? 16th and 17th. So those of you that can come and be recognized, please do. And we'll do some fundraising for Virginia Union, Virginia State, for the Richmond 34, and for Brian Bullock, who is still wanting to get that documentary out and present it to PBS, and we want to help him do that. So we've talked more than we need to. Let's take a few minutes, Bailey, and see if any of the Richmond 34 have something to say and share with us on this day that are here. So, unmute yourselves and cut on your video if you're there, if you're here.
Well, I'd like to make a comment to my fellow Richmond 34. It's in those 62 years, it's been quite a ride. And but I want to give a shout out, especially to Elizabeth, because I've watched her for many of those years push forward and hold this program together, and certainly hope that it continues, Elizabeth, for another 62 years. How about that? You ready?
We'll be here in spirit.
All right, sounds like a winner, but a shout out to everyone and everyone who is also participating at this time, especially Virginia State.
All right, thank you, Raymond. He's the one who's on the law is Raymond Randolph Jr. and versus the state of Virginia. There were so many of us, they couldn't put all our names on that on the document. All righty. Anyone else would like to share some words with us?
Good morning. My name is Wendell Closer, and I'm also one of Richmond 34. And when I look back at 62 years, I am encouraged and pleased by the progress I've seen that came out of our efforts. But I'm also very much aware that even though we look at the progress, we also must look at all that still needs to be done. And we can't be satisfied. The fight must continue. Be blessed and join us in that fight.
Is there any other Richmond 34 member who is here that would like to say something? Or a representative, family member? Barbara, where are you?
I'll chime in for my mother. This is Monique Nero. I know she's not going to speak because we had to drag her to the 50th. So I just want to say I'm blessed to be here, to see each of you. Thank you so much, Aunt Betty, for pushing forward, for getting recognition. We heard the story, some of the story from our mother growing up, but until we came to the 50th celebration, we did not hear the real story, the backstory. And that's what needs to be told, especially in the situation that we are seeing around the country with the suppression of our history, of American history. this is more needed than ever. So I'm here to support you all. I'm thankful for each of you and the remaining Richmond 34 who are still present with us. It's a blessing to have you all still here, and your voices still must be heard. Thank you for all the sacrifices you made, because you made a lot. I love you.
Thank you.
so much. Beautiful. Monique. All righty, we have 8 minutes left. And anyone else who has not spoken or who's on that would like to say a word?
Question to ask the Richmond 34. Is this appropriate to ask?
Certainly, Pearl. This is one of our supporters, and Pearl Johnson, one of the alumni directors, right? Alumni, you represent one of the big groups.
The Gravely chapter, the
That's what I'm
Virginia
trying to
Union
get out.
University National Alumni Gravely chapter, Vice
Okay.
Admiral Samuel Gravely chapter. Now, I just wanted to ask the members of the Richmond 34 who are on today, just how did, what was your journey after you left Virginia Union, your professions, and any significant impact you made in terms of social justice, civil rights, or just in general? Like, what was that journey like after Virginia Union, your professional journey?
Well, I can speak on as far as civil rights as a civil rights activist. The next step, I received a call from CORE, from James Farmer, who was the executive director of the Congress of Racial Equality, and asked if I would become a freedom rider. So I did, and traveled with, matter of fact, 2 other students from Virginia Union. And we were arrested in Jackson, Mississippi. I spent 10 days in Hinds County Jail, and we were transferred to Parchment State Penitentiary, where I spent 4 months. Because of that, I was also drafted and to go into the service. So when I went home, rather than go into the Army, I chose to go into the Air Force. And after going into the office and the recruiter saying, okay, raise your hand and let me know if you ever been arrested. Of course, I had just gotten out of prison. So America said, well, we aren't interested in having you. So I didn't get into the war. But as far as a civil rights activist, from that point, Virginia Union opened the door for me to get into my company, Bristol Myers Squibb, out of New York. Probably wouldn't have had that opportunity if it weren't for Virginia Union and the education that I received. I spent 30 years with Bristol Myers Squibb, and also I mean, it changed my life, if you could see, as I grew up in a white neighborhood in New Haven, Connecticut, and all my mentors were white. So it wasn't until I came to Virginia Union where I found out that I was no longer white, but I was black, not only black, but some other things. So anyway, that's my.
Raymond, thank you so much. I know Frances Dalton wants to say a few words, and we've been wanting to hear her say a few words, Frances.
Well, I'm a representative, as you know. Bernard deceased in 2003, but he, excuse me, he did a lot of things when he went into the military. He went into the Army, and for several years, he had to explain why he was arrested. They did take him. And he also was a pilot. He had several things that he had to overcome in housing as we moved around the country. And finally, at one point, he was harassed so much going back and forth to classes. They put us in a housing. We had a 4-bedroom house that it was just the 2 of us. but that was for his safety, because as he would go onto the base, the police would stop the car. He was riding with white officers, but they would make him get out of the car and they would pat him down and try to find out who he was. And this kept on for a while, and he went to his commanding officer and said, "This has got to stop." I says, "I'm fearful for my family." And so he moved us on to base. We had nice housing while we were there at Fort Riley.
Oh, great. Thank you for that story. I didn't know you went through all that. And I'm so glad.
Oh, I'd like to say one other thing too. I went on to be an usher at the March on Washington.
What was that?
I served as an usher at the March on Washington.
Oh, okay.
And my station was near Harry Belafonte.
Oh, well, that was wonderful. Okay, thank you so much.
Well, I will.
Oh, okay.
I just want to thank Virginia Union and Richmond 34 for blessing the Richmond 34 and my mother. And also I want to give a special shout out to Virginia Union for blessing my mother with a gift they sent her. It meant the world to her. But I just want to thank you all for everything you're doing. And may God bless y'all.
That's my son, Marcus.
And if I could just give a quick plug, since Ford Johnson is not able to speak, I will just mention briefly to your question, Mr. Cheryl Johnson. I know that after Richmond 34, he was instrumental in the desegregation of our federal courts across the country, because there was a Supreme Court case of Ford Johnson Jr. in the state of Virginia. And it was because he stood up in traffic court where there was no seating on the black side of the courtroom, but it was completely empty on the white side of the courtroom. And he chose to sit on the empty side because it was overcrowded on the other side. And the judge said, "Boy, move." And he did not. And he was found contempt in court. And that case was then taken to the Supreme Court. So I do want to give you that recognition and mention that that is something that he did to help us across this nation. So thank you. And I'm so sorry your mic isn't working.
He's waving at you, so he heard you.
I wanted to say one last thing. One of the things my mom did right after the Richmond 34, it was she gave me really good whippings. She whipped my tail real good.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, they really need to hear that. Okay, well, thank you so much. It is at the hour, 12:30. Oh, Wendell, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, somebody asked what we did after Richmond 34. At Virginia Union, I was a math major and I wanted to teach. So when I graduated, I was aware that Prince Edward County, rather than integrate the schools, had closed the school system. So Black kids, a whole generation of them, were lost education. And Dr. Rupert Pickett, who was the executive director of the Richmond Teachers Association, that was before the two teachers group merged, had encouraged teachers to go up to Prince Edward County during the summer to teach kids, and those who were able to get an education to make sure that they were that they didn't lose the skills that they had learned over the year during the summer. And during my first summer out, I had the chance to go up to Prince Edward County and teach some of those young people who did not have the opportunity to go to school during the previous year. And I value that experience. And a couple of months ago, I was at a conference and it was mentioned that I was a part of the Richmond 34. And a young man sitting next to me in a room of 400 people touched me on the shoulder and said, "Do you know about the young man who started all of this in Greensboro?" And I said, "Yes, that was February 1st. Ours was February 22nd. And this young man in a room of 400 people not somewhere else, but sitting next to me, said my grandfather was one of those. I thought that was amazing that he was sitting next to me and was able to say that.
That's
All right now.
well. Listen, it is. I'm so glad it's that for you to be here. It's been a blessing for all of you to be here to participate. There were others, I'm sure, that wanted to. And 63rd, the 63rd anniversary. Let's do something different, big. Let's really come together in some kind of way. But also don't forget Legacy Weekend. And I want to thank Bailey and the Flying Squirrels for giving us that opportunity for the Legacy Weekend. So we've got some ideas in place, and just want you to know that the struggle's not over. We still have a lot to do. If you've got the will to do it and the means to do it, let's do it. And when you're called on, you'll be called on to speak, I'm sure, or to be at certain places. And we're making history. And that big sign across at the top of the diamond reminds people as they come into Richmond, they'll say, what is the Richmond 34 legacy? So they'll ask that question. And so there may be other things that are in the works. I've been hearing some things, but I don't know. But I want to thank Pearl for asking that question. And Bailey, I'm going to give you the last word, being a wonderful hostess. And thank you, everyone, for making this possible. Thank you. From the mayor's office and all the Richmond 34. And there are a lot of friends that were on this call from my husband's former church, Liberty in Washington, D.C. So they have tuned in also. So I haven't seen their faces. I did see some names. Betty Blaylock was one of them. So Bailey, without further ado, take us home.
Like Elizabeth said, I just want to thank everyone for being able to come together today. I know this is an amazing anniversary, and we as the Squirrels family are honored to be able to share your story and let everyone know what amazing humans you are and what work you guys have done. And I am so grateful and excited that you finally have an official Richmond 34 Day. As we all know, February 22nd was always a Richmond 34 Day, but now it's official, and that is so exciting. Last year was just the start of our Legacy Weekend, and we are so excited for the things to come and all the new programming that we are able to do to help share your story throughout the city of Richmond and beyond. So thank you so much for everyone who's here, who's excited to celebrate with us, and we look forward to doing so much more in the future. So thank you.